This week, Rachel, we met a really interesting and enthusiastic English teacher called Sam Riseborough.
Yep, he was super enthusiastic about phrasal verbs, that one thing, that nemesis of the student who wants to become fluent in English.
Yeah, phrasal verbs.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's always asking us about phrasal verbs. All our students say, I want to learn phrasal verbs. How do I understand phrasal verbs?
Yeah, or even, do I need to learn phrasal verbs? How do I learn phrasal verbs? And Sam is truly an expert on both where phrasal verbs actually came from, how they originated into our language, and secondly, the best way to learn them. So the best way to teach them, I mean, even in the interview, I suggest he needs to run some webinars for teachers.
Yeah. And his solution to how all our students should learn phrasal verbs is...
Peppa Pig!
Peppa Pig. Who would have thought Peppa Pig is the answer to all of your problems?
Yeah. But if you want to know why and how, you're going to have to listen
to the full episode.
Yeah. But tell us some of the other things we talk about, because it's quite an interesting and colourful conversation.
Yeah. I mean, we spoke about a load of things, as well as Peppa Pig and phrasal verbs. We spoke about having a bilingual dog.
Yeah.
We spoke about Hamley's Toy Store.
Oh, yeah.
In London.
The most famous toy store in London.
Celebrity chefs.
Yeah.
We spoke about the Celts, the Romans. And for any history buffs out there, the year 1066.
Yeah.
What's the year 1066 famous for, Rachel?
It is a pivotal moment in English history. It is a battle, isn't it? Hastings.
The Battle of Hastings.
Yeah.
It was the Norman invasion of Britain. 1066.
Changed the history.
Changed the language.
Yeah.
Changed everything.
It did.
Yeah.
I've actually seen the Bayeux Tapestry. I went to see it when I was at school, which depicts the Battle of 1066.
Who's the famous king with the arrow?
Harold.
Harold, King Harold. Yeah.
And I used to go on holiday to Hastings, by the way.
Yeah. Hastings is a great sort of holiday destination for people. Anyway, so we covered all of those different things.
We did indeed. And he sounds like he's a true expert. He's done a lot of research. He's very knowledgeable, but also he seems to place a lot of emphasis on making these phrasal verbs very functional and helping students overcome that barrier to true fluency.
Yeah.
Learning and understanding the English language. I think the key really is in the history, which he only
recently found out.
Yeah, recently. Yeah.
Recently discovered, yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to know why the secret to learning English phrasal verbs is Peppa Pig, carry on listening.
Yeah, and make sure you connect with Sam. Become friends with him. Connect with him on LinkedIn. He wants you to connect.
Okay, here we go. Thank you for listening to BizPod with me, Paul.
And me, Rachel.
Our weekly business English podcast where we talk about the news, social media, and hot topics from a business point of view. You'll get a podcast and links to the articles we discuss. This way you can share your thoughts too. Join us as we discuss what's on our minds this week.
Hi, thanks very much for having me on. It's a real pleasure to meet you guys.
Lovely. Okay. So this is Sam. Everybody, this is Sam, who's a fellow teacher. Come on, Sam, introduce yourself to our listeners.
Yeah, I'm a teacher. I'm based in Madrid, in Spain. I've been here for about 10 years. I was working before teaching. I was a care worker. I used to work for autistic young people. And then I met a Spanish nurse who was very nice, and I liked her a lot. And when she returned to Madrid to live in Spain, I came with her. And that's now my wife, of course. And we have two children, twins, who just turned 5 recently.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's the reason why I'm in Spain, and that's the situation. And then, of course, when I came here, teaching English was a good option for me. It was an easy option for me, and I was able to work first in a school, but very quickly I started working in offices, working with professionals, helping them to improve their English for business, basically, in their professional life. And I've been doing that for about 10 years. But as I think we're going to talk about today, um, having children was a really big influence on myself and the way I learned the language. And we'll explore it as we go through. But
Yeah.
the way I teach it, it really made some concrete differences to to the way I teach a language as well. And yeah,
Okay.
That
that's
sounds
me.
really
Well,
interesting. We don't have kids. We have a dog who's bilingual. But
Surprisingly similar in often in many cases, but yeah, in this case it'll be slightly different, I suppose.
yeah, I
Um,
wanted to say, so I'm presuming your kids are bilingual. They speak Spanish and
that
English fluently.
yeah, it's an unusual. It's I think it's sorry, I think it's very usual, but they understand everything I say in English, and but it's only recently they've started talking to me in English. I knew they understood everything, but it didn't
Hmm.
come out. And I've spoken to a lot of people who have told me that's not a thing to worry about and that's quite normal. And yeah, really, honestly, about 6 weeks ago, about 8 weeks ago, one of my daughters, especially more than the other, just started talking English. And now she just talks English a lot, like every day. I don't really know why.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really interesting how I don't know exactly the reason. I've made some effort to give them more English media. I always speak to them in English, obviously. But it was surprising to me how it didn't gradually increase. It was like she was learning, 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 but didn't want to say anything. And then one day, suddenly, boom, everything came out at the same time. So
Yeah.
now I would say yes, I have bilingual children. But if you asked me 2 months ago, I would have said I'm not sure. It's curious how that happens, I guess.
Okay.
do they
Um,
But
switch? Do, do they switch between English and Spanish? Do they mix sentences? Do they do code switching?
Yeah, very much, very much. It genuinely is. Again, these are the things that have been very interesting for me to watch and the way they learn. And they do, and they don't mind if they will try and say an English sentence, and if they don't know a word, they just say the word in Spanish and they continue talking in English, and they don't have any. They don't go, oh, that's annoying. I couldn't remember that word. Again, very, very, very different the way a child takes it to the way an adult would maybe be frustrated in a similar
Hmm.
moment.
Yeah.
It's been
Can I ask you
interesting.
a can I ask you a question, Sam, about your background? Because I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and you used to work for Jamie Oliver.
Yeah, just about a year, I think it was in Gatwick
That's
Airport.
you. Yeah, that's your claim to fame. You used to work for. I mean, did you ever meet Jamie Oliver? I mean, I'm sure some of our listeners will know who Jamie Oliver is, but did you ever meet him?
I didn't meet Jamie Oliver, but is it Giovanni, the other guy, the other another famous chef? I think he's Italian, right? We did have a couple of famous chefs come by the restaurant, but it was an international airport, so actually we had quite a lot of visitors, quite a lot of people, interesting, important people come by. And that was a fun experience.
Okay, so you and Jamie, you're not best mates or anything, no?
Not yet. I'm still working on it.
Okay.
Why do you think I got LinkedIn?
Uh, okay, so Sam, come on, what's your mission? What's your goal now then as an English teacher?
Well, really, so to be honest, I'll come to the key, like the key moment for me really was about 2.5 years ago. Right, yeah, sorry, a year and a half. We were in London for Christmas, and we were in a restaurant and a Peppa Pig balloon went past the window. And my kids really, really wanted a Peppa Pig balloon. So we went to try to find where they bought it from. And it was from a theatre, from a Peppa Pig show that had finished. So they couldn't buy it and they were crying. And it was like the 23rd of December in the center of London. It was packed. It was dark. So many people. Very stressful moment. And we are like, okay, fine. We were very close to Hamleys, the toy store. So okay, fine, fine, fine. Just take them to Hamleys, buy them something, buy them the first thing they can see, just to stop them from crying. And it was a nightmare. It was extremely busy. It was very dark. The kids were too tired, but we managed to grab before we left. We managed to find a Peppa Pig sticker book, a really, really big, like 370 pages, a huge book of Peppa Pig activities. And I bought it. It was great. I was doing it for like a year, more than a year with the kids. It's really good. I recommend everybody who's learning English, Peppa Pig sticker books is the way to start. And the reason why I say that is because, so at this point, I've been teaching English for about 10 years. I studied English at school. But I was going through the book, going page by page by page, and every page, every page had a phrasal verb in it. Join in the dots, match up the things, color it in, help George get back down from between. Really, really, really difficult sentences for my high level learners to make. Things that I don't think they would have been able to do. Yeah,
Okay.
join in, match up, color in, find out, figure out, work out, guide him through every page, 370 pages of phrasal verbs. And it was a book for 2-year-olds. Like the target audience was for children who are 2 or 3. And I was thinking, I have a lot of students with a very, very high level. Some of them I don't think need English classes. They just want the lessons because they want to practice talking. I have students who speak English better than me. But I don't think they could produce this vocabulary. I think they would consider
Okay.
this too hard. Even my top, top, top level students who worked in London for 30 years, well, I mean, that's not quite true, but have worked in English for years and years and years. Uh, I don't think they would have been capable of those simple, simple activities for children. And I started to think about why. And I started to explore why and explore the reasons. And yeah, now this Peppa Pig book, I made a lot of photocopies. It's one of my most important materials. I use it for all of my learners from very, very, very low level learners who have just started learning English to top, top, top level who are basically fluent.
Wow.
And I've made a lot of materials from it. And yeah, I thought I'd talk about that today really, because I know especially you mentioned that you're based in Italy. And I was quite curious about Italy. I tried to Google it last night, but I couldn't. It was a bit too complicated, so I couldn't find it. But something that I often talk about before I get into this lesson is most of my students are Spanish and French, and there's a few things that are quite consistent about every European language. And so sometimes I like to talk about those things first before I get into the English side of it, because what you're going to find in Spanish and in French is that the oldest words in those languages, there'll be Celtic words related, Gallego, depending on what language you speak, but from the Celtic origin. And they're always about farming, and they're always about nature, and they're often about animals and plants. It's
All right.
really, it's really consistent. And I tried to Google it in Italian, but Italy's a very complicated place, the different regions and the different histories. So I gave up quite quickly.
Well, maybe Spain is similar to Italy in terms of the language because when we moved to Italy 20 odd years ago, Rachel took some Italian lessons before we got here. I didn't speak a word, but we soon realized that nobody in Italy speaks Italian.
Okay.
I speak
They all speak
dialect.
they all speak regional
I
dialects. You go
see.
to
That's
so
interesting.
maybe it's similar in Spain. I
Right.
don't know, but Italian is kind of like the thing that you hear on TV, but normal people don't speak Italian. They speak
Right. Interesting.
regional
Sorry,
regional dialects of the
where
language.
in Italy are you?
In Abruzzo. You know where Rome is? We're on that line, but the opposite
Okay.
coast. Yeah.
Okay. I
In the
wonder,
middle
I
of
guess
nowhere.
I suppose that makes a big difference as well. Because it's something I'm very conscious of. I often hear people say, I was in England. I know England. I was there. People are very unfriendly. People are very busy. It's always very, and I'm like, you're talking about London. You're talking about London. It's
Yeah.
not the same as England. And I'm very conscious about making that mistake with myself because I live in Madrid, quite close to the center. It's a very Madrid, and people from Madrid have a reputation, I think, like Paris and France, similar. So
Okay.
I'm not sure. I find that I'm not sure I have the same experience, but that's probably because it's Castellano. It's the Madrid version of Spanish. It's the correct version of Spanish, of course. I suspect that might be the reason that's a bit different.
I do think what
Um,
you've said about the language of the phrasal verbs. I mean, I've had the same experience with my students. I've
yeah,
had really high level executives, and I've
yeah,
said, right, okay, can you tell me how to make a paper airplane? And they don't even know how
yeah,
to
some
tell
really
you
good
to
feedback.
turn, to fold, to bend.
Yeah,
And there's a great TED talk about how to tie your shoelaces the right way, and that is another great exercise to say
yeah,
to people, can you say how to tie your
100%.
shoelaces? And
Actually,
it's
that's a
like
really interesting one. Yeah,
functional language, isn't it? Phrasal verbs are
very,
very functional.
Mm.
extremely, yeah. Yeah, actually, yeah, let me talk about that. Yeah, they're extremely functional. This is something that I often talk about, is it's more important than the vocabulary. A mirror is something that you look into and it reflects back at you. It's much more useful to be able to make those terms than it is to know the word mirror. Mirror is a good word to learn, but if you're capable of making those sentences, you can explain anything. Yeah, you can express anything. So, so it's more important than the vocabulary. It's extremely functional. And what I've started to realize is I know the reason why it's difficult for people. I figured out why it's difficult for people, especially people who are using English in a professional, in a formal context. There's an extra challenge in there, especially if your first language is Italian, Spanish, French, Portuguese, a Latin origin language, and you use English in a professional context, you're going to have difficulty with the phrasal verbs. And I'm sorry, but it's something that you should definitely learn because it's not just pieces of vocabulary. It's also about the syntax and about the grammar. A good example is in most of those Latin languages, you can't end the sentence with a preposition.
Hmm.
But in English, you always do.
Yeah.
Everybody has to get out. Just tell me when you filled it in. You can't do that in Italian. You can't do that in French and Spanish. But it's extremely common and helpful to be able to do that in English. This is another reason why people get confused about the word whom. A lot of people find whom confusing. The main reason people find it confusing and difficult is because if you're in a habit of putting the preposition too early, this is the person to whom the letter was written. You have to say whom. But
Hmm.
native people don't do that. We say it's the person the letter was written to, and we finish the
Hmm.
sentence with the preposition. So, yeah, I think I'll just jump into it. So, there's a couple of different elements. The thing I used to teach a long time ago was English is a mixture of languages, very much like French, Italian, I guess, Spanish. Celtic. Celtic is the first sort of family of languages that runs through all of these languages today. Um, so again, all of the oldest words in French, all of the oldest words in Spanish, they're all Celtic words, and they're all about farming, agriculture, etc., etc. But then the Romans came across Europe, they conquered loads of Europe, and they gave English lots of words as well. We have a couple of Celtic words, not very many. Most of the Celtic words have gone. I think bin is one. But we have a lot of Roman words.
Yeah.
Anything, organization, infrastructure, politics, construction. It's not a coincidence that those words are all similar in Italian as well.
The
And they're all similar in
Latinates, yeah.
French.
Hmm.
Exactly. And it's also not a coincidence that the content of those words, the Romans did give us organization, infrastructure. That's what they did very famously. They love to be organized. So you can see a bit of the culture coming through as well. But the Romans didn't lose a battle or anything. They just left. They abandoned England. They had more important wars to fight, so they just left the country. And then the Anglo-Saxon people came over. That's the English language. It's the Anglo-Saxon language. This is what I'm referring to about grammar and syntax. Because even if you don't use Anglo-Saxon vocabulary, it's an Anglo-Saxon language. You need to be comfortable using this Anglo-Saxon terms, vocabulary, words, structures.
Yeah.
It's English. It's English culture. It's English language. It's 80% of the words that we say in a conversation are Anglo-Saxon. English is Anglo-Saxon. However, we got a couple of other influences. The Vikings came a couple of times. They gave us some words: wing, rot, bag, take. There are some Viking words. But then the big one is 1066. The
The
Normans or
French.
the French, yeah, exactly right. Some people from the north of France came over and they conquered England. And the first thing to understand about it is I know it sounds strange, but genuinely it's helpful to understand it. They had horses and they built castles. And I know that sounds funny, but that's actually quite helpful to understand if you want to understand phrasal verbs. The thing is, it was really quick. I know, right? It was really, really quick. I think it's kind of hard to express how fast it was that the French colonized England. About 10 weeks, they conquered the whole island, or the whole England, sorry, not the whole island, because Scotland and Wales, no. But it took about 10 weeks to conquer all of England, and about 5 years to kill or imprison everybody who was important. After 1075, there was nobody in England who was important. Not in a legal context, not in a financial context, not in a religious context. Everybody who was important in England after 1071 spoke French.
Okay.
Every single person who was a farmer who worked and did manual labor in England after 1071 spoke Anglo-Saxon.
Hmm.
So that's
Okay.
why you have this divide. That's why, for example, cow is Anglo-Saxon, but beef is from French.
Hmm.
Pork is also from French. Pig is Anglo-Saxon. Because if you
Hmm.
were working outside and you worked with animals, you were Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah.
If you were
If you were
eating
lucky enough to be
meat,
eating them, you were
you
French.
were French
Yeah.
in every single case. In every single case. And so
Okay.
that's where you see this divide in the language. This is why we have, for example, if I tell you that my dad's a woodworker, you probably assume it's his hobby. And if I tell you my dad's a carpenter, you probably assume it's his job.
Okay.
That French vocabulary you use in more formal, more serious contexts with people you respect when you're talking about something important, and that Anglo-Saxon vocabulary much less so. Another example is Little Red Riding Hood loves to play in the woods. She goes and sees her grandma in the woods. But on a map, we never write woods. We write forest, always.
Hmm.
Forest is
Hmm.
French, wood is Anglo-Saxon. Again, on a map, it's a river. But we go and play in a stream. When you're a kid, you go and play in a stream. There's millions of examples of these. And my favorite one is maybe when you go to an airport, it always says arrivals and departures. It never says coming and going. Never. It never say coming and going. It's formal, it's serious, it's
Hmm.
Yeah.
prestigious, it's respectable. So we always use that French vocabulary. Again, when you go buy a t-shirt, if you're a big guy, you're never going to find a t-shirt that says B on the back. You're not a big guy. You're
Bit
large.
large. Yeah.
Large. It's
Yeah.
French. It's formal. It's professional. It's someone. It's when you talk to someone you respect, you use French. Another example I really enjoy is the Phantom of the Opera. It's the Phantom of the Opera. It's Ghostbusters. We don't have the Phantom Busters running around New York. It's the Ghostbusters in New York, and in the opera, it's the Phantom.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
So I've taught that for a really long time. I've often spoke about that. I think it's an interesting thing. I think it's helpful for the spelling. This is why receive, deceive, perceive have the I and the E, and tree, see, need have double E. They're from different languages. And there's a few elements. I've always found it interesting. I think people generally find it interesting to learn about this. But what you really quickly realize is phrasal verbs are Germanic. Phrasal
Hmm.
verbs are always words like
Hmm.
get, go, take,
Hmm.
put.
Hmm.
They're more simple words that we use in more day-to-day contexts, which is why if your first language is Italian and you work in a very serious, professional, formal context, you probably don't need phrasal verbs and you probably don't use phrasal verbs
Yeah.
because you don't need to say leave out, you can say exclude. And you don't need to say throw out, you can say expel. And you don't need
Hmm.
to say lay out, you can say explain.
Hmm.
But all of those phrasal verbs had the word out, and all of those French words had EX at the beginning. So there is a
Hmm.
consistency. It's just they're
Hmm.
from a different family of language.
Hmm. Hmm. I totally agree with you. I mean, Sam, sounds like you've got a book in you there.
I'm working on it.
I have a system for phrasal verbs when I teach them, and I don't know whether you agree or not. Okay. I usually say there's three different ways. You can either focus on the verb and find all other phrasal verbs so you remember them by the verb. So, say you say put, so put on,
Yeah.
put off, put in, put out. or you choose the prepositional, the no, but yeah, show them the diagram in the middle, Paul. You choose on and you put on, get on, sit on, things like that.
Yeah.
Or you can choose the theme. So all phrasal verbs are related to sport, or phrasal verbs are related to something else. And I usually say to people, do it like that. I
Yes.
mean, do you think that works for my Italian students? But obviously, you said you're speaking with Spanish and French, which are different. How do you find it works for you?
I would say a combination of those last two is going to be the way to do it. So there's
Hmm.
not much of a consistency if you're looking at the verbs because it's really the kind of prepositions that carry a lot of the metaphorical meaning.
Yeah.
So if you're doing it with the preposition first, there's very, very little connection often. However, preposition first does work. It took me a long time to find all the groups. To be honest, I would like to say if anybody ever finds the person who made the website Phrasal Verb Demon, please buy them a beer from me. I think they're fantastic. I use them. I used it a lot when I was working on this stuff, and I wasn't able to find that person on social media. But I use them a lot. They have a nice breakdown of the groups of prepositions. But there is a logic. There
Ah.
is a logic if you look at the prepositions. Again, just to give that example of the outs, I think we saw, was it rub out,
Hmm.
Yeah.
erase.
Hmm.
Again, you get es or ex with out. So there is a logic there. And so the way I do it in my lessons is I teach it in groups of prepositions. I do right today, this or the next couple of weeks, we're going to do in, on, and out, for example.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I take a small number of verbs and I mix and match. However, the second point you made, I think, is a good one, and that kind of brings me back to Peppa Pig. Because, of course, in reality, when you're learning it as a native, you're intuitively picking up these connections.
Hmm.
Nobody explains to you, like, oh, usually when we use a preposition up, it means to a completion or to a certain result. Nobody tells you that.
No.
You hit shut up, clean up, wake up, get up. Get up slightly different, obviously, but these are terms you just hear. And so, yeah, that's why I started by talking about Peppa Pig, because when I was doing it that way, you just seeing it in the context and seeing it the way a native sees it. You realize number one, it's not difficult vocabulary. Take down, put up, join in. It's not difficult vocabulary if you take it one at a time.
Hmm.
And if you just engage with the question that you see, even if the question is, how many ice creams does Peppa Pig have? Even if it's a silly question for children,
Yeah.
read it, look at it, and engage with what it is. And then that's how you can learn prepositions. You see them in
Yeah.
context.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's why I think again, I think that's why so many I'm sure you had the same experience. I know a lot of teachers had a similar experience when you're talking to a learner and they say, I've had a meeting today about like the financial projections for the next 5 years, and then I read an article in the Financial Times in my lunch break. I had no problem. And then I came home and I put on The Simpsons. I didn't understand anything. Why? Like, how is that happening? Or I listening
Yeah.
to Ed Sheeran and half of the vocabulary is too difficult for me.
Yeah.
How is that possible? That's how that's possible. It's because if you're reading the Financial Times, we have included the projections regarding the important priorities of It's all French vocabulary. So it's all
Yeah.
similar to your native language, and it's what you use at work anyway. The things that you're seeing in The Simpsons are not going to be there.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it?
Very
There's
It's
always
interesting.
really
been
interesting.
with English, there has always been this sort of two different levels of the language, the
100%,
formal
yeah.
and the informal. There's always been
Yeah,
this sort of
Mhm.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
exactly.
always say to students as well, another way, I mean, it's a way of remembering them. That sometimes I think is the problem. But as you said, if they learn them as in a functional way and putting them into use, it's
That's
easier
it.
to remember. But I always say, well, why not try and learn with particularly with Italians, learn the phrasal verb with the Latinate equivalent, like to go down, to descend, which comes from scendere. Then
Exactly.
that seems to work for the Italians. But I mean, my first question, because they always say, I want to learn phrasal verbs. And I'm like, well, who are you speaking English to? And what are you talking about? And if they
Yeah.
say professional setting and non-native English, I'm like, don't even bother. Don't even
I
go
did
there.
that for 10 years. Yeah, yeah. No,
But if they do, I mean, it would so raise their level of fluency, wouldn't it?
it's remarkable how much it raises their level. I genuinely, I completely understand you. Until about 6 months ago, I was the same. But it's a disadvantage for teachers as well. I'm sure you had the same experience too. You're listening for you're trying to find a song to do a listening activity, or you're trying to find an article to read in a lesson. And how often do you have to say, "Oh, I can't do that one. The vocabulary is not right. Too many phrasal verbs. Too many
Oh
phrasal
yeah,
verbs."
yeah,
So often, and it's something I've really enjoyed by taking that step back and by saying,
yeah,
right, today we're doing Peppa Pig. Today we're doing these really simple things. It's funny because genuinely, I think sometimes the students are like, okay, this is nice, this is cool, I guess, but it's not really
yeah.
helping. And then you
Uh,
go into an activity, you go, okay, now let's return to the Economist article we've been reading or whatever.
mm,
Boom,
met that.
boom, boom, phrasal verb, phrasal verb, phrasal verb, and you
Yeah,
go, now I understand it a completely
yeah,
different way. Because you are going to see the same thing. You're not going to see the same vocabulary, but that's why I gave the example of whom before as well.
yeah,
Because the structure is still important. The syntax is still important. You
yeah,
still, even if you're not going to say to people, we have to get out, you want to say we have to escape, it's still helpful for you to be able to know that you
yeah.
want to finish a sentence with a preposition. You will still need that skill.
Sam, I mean, this is a great thing for students to listen to know A, there is a way, and B, there is a logical explanation. But you also need to do a webinar for other English teachers. You need to say, like, having trouble teaching phrasal verbs, this is how you do it.
It's something I would like to talk about more and maybe get a bit more organized the way I do it. But it's genuinely something. Again, I know I'm being repetitive, but it's beautiful with Peppa Pig and with The Simpsons and with
Hmm.
Ed Sheeran because suddenly what you're allowed to do if you're able to get a few phrasal verbs and you get students able to use them, understand them, and see the connection between them, suddenly all of the comedy videos you watch on YouTube, now you can use those in your lessons. All of the
Yeah,
songs that you like, now you can use those in your lessons.
yeah,
The things that
Mm.
you read and you find interesting, you have it all now. Because
yeah,
there's not a huge area of the language that you're thinking, oh, I don't know how to teach that. Oh, I find that really difficult. Oh, it's really
yeah.
confusing. And there's an even bigger advantage of it, which is you can get kid stuff, and kid stuff's fun, especially in books and stories. One thing I use a lot for this subject, actually, your example with making paper airplanes is a great example. I often use WikiHow for this. I had one about
Mm,
how to skip a rope, and I just hide the prepositions. WikiHow's very good for that, for exactly the reason you say. Tuck this into this, put this behind that, move it down in between this, da, 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 da.
Mhm.
Um, but kids' books, I use Aesop's fables because again, it's
Yeah.
very short sentences. It's it's books for 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. So the sentences are very short, but they have a lot of movement and a lot of action.
mm,
There's always an animal calling up to someone or jumping down into something
mm,
or looking something and something looks back at him. Always
mhm,
in these very simple, illustrated, interesting, fun children's books. So it's another big advantage you have if you want to understand phrasal verbs more and less professional vocabulary. It might take a little bit longer. It's a little bit more difficult, but you have much better materials. Every pop
mm,
song you listen to is going to have a phrasal verb. Every kid's
mm.
book you read is going to have a phrasal verb.
Yeah.
Use those.
It would be great. I mean, I think Rachel would agree with me here that if in Italian schools, in French
Yeah.
schools or whatever, they taught English using these books.
Yeah.
But the problem with Italian schools is they teach English with a big focus on grammatical rules and the Latin-based vocabulary.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
But
very
And
little speaking
conjugations.
practice. And it's
And
like, it's
yeah,
a language,
conjugations.
you've got to talk.
English has like three conjugations, and students spend 5 years learning them. It's not the same as Italian. It's not the same as French. It's not the same as Spanish. You don't
Mm,
need to spend so many years looking at conjugations. Prepositions are difficult. Spend more time on that. Those don't work the same
mm,
as Italian.
yeah,
I don't know. I find it really strange. Genuinely, I don't know if this is true, but I feel like part of the reason is because grammar is a much bigger priority if you study a Latin language, and I think there are historical reasons why
Yeah.
Latin is supposed to be
We
just
didn't learn grammar at
everything.
school. You had English language and English literature. English language, you were writing stuff, and
Yeah,
English literature, you were reading stuff. But there was no grammar lessons. You learned the grammar
No.
lessons when you learned to be a teacher. It was
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. No, the way natives and non-natives learn is wildly different. Genuinely, I know, told the whole story, but it was a real. I didn't sleep. This Peppa Pig book, man, this Peppa Pig book changed my life. I just went to bed every night for like a week being like, but why? Why is none of I have students who give presentations and international conferences in English and I don't think they could do my Peppa Pig book. And why is that? Or how could that possibly be true? It took me a long time to think about how to translate it into lessons. Was a difficult thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I know you said that the person who was the phrasal verb demon couldn't be found or identified, but I think you are the phrasal verb demon, Sam. I think I think there's definitely a book and a webinar and a whole series of teacher training sessions there.
Oh, thank you very much. Fingers crossed. No, fingers crossed. People find it helpful, but genuinely, I hope people find that information helpful and find that a
Hmm.
little history helpful. But the number
Hmm.
one thing to take away, I think, is if you know now you know the history, now you know the reason. If you know that you're more likely to develop your skills with this grammar, syntax, and vocabulary by reading children's books and listening to pop music than by studying in a grammar book, that's good news, no? That's got to be good news.
It's more
So
fun. It's
it's a
more
lot more
interesting.
Yeah.
fun. So do it.
Yeah.
Do it. You don't have to study hard. You don't have to write everything down. But if you can try to read a couple of kids' books, you will massively improve your skill with prepositions and with phrasal verbs.
Okay, well, I think that is a very good point to end on. And I would highly encourage any students who are eager to learn phrasal verbs and make their language a lot more functional, get in touch with Sam, connect with him on LinkedIn, let him be your teacher.
Thank you very, very much.
Who'd have, who'd have thought Peppa Pig could be the answer to everything?
Changed my life, mate. Changed my life.
Peppa Pig
Okay,
changed my life.
is that going to be the name of the
It
episode,
has
Paul?
to. No, it has to be.
Yeah, it has to be, doesn't it? Yeah.
Right, okay, Sam, thank you so much for coming to speak
No,
to us
thank you very,
today.
very much.
Really
It's been a
enlightening.
pleasure
And
to meet you.
yeah,
Very,
absolutely.
very pleasant for me.
Okay, bye.
Well, I hope I speak to you soon again, guys. Thank you very, very much. Bye.
So wasn't that great?
Yeah, and who would have thought, like I said, Peppa Pig is the answer to everything.
I know.
And in Sam's words,
Yeah.
Peppa Pig
Yeah.
could change your life.
Yeah. I'm going to put a link up. Everybody will see the link. There is going to be the TED video that I mentioned, the TED talk about tying your shoelaces. I'm going to find a nice little YouTube video for us about how to make a paper airplane.
Okay. And I've also got Phrasal Verb Demon,
Yeah,
the website.
the fantastic website, which Sam didn't know who created it, but he said it's fantastic.
Yeah. So if you are the Phrasal Verb Demon, or you
Yeah.
know who created it, get in touch. Let us know.
Absolutely. But lots of links. And as we said at the beginning, please connect with Sam. If you want to learn phrasal verbs, he's your teacher. He's the guy you should go to.
Okay.
And that's it.
See you all next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. We hope you liked our podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe and stay connected with us. Until next time, goodbye.